Good evening. For those of you watching this video who are unfamiliar with me, my name is Charity Phillips, and I'm making this video in order to keep a video record of the systematic harassment that I'm currently experiencing. This first video will be short in comparison to the other videos that I'm going to make, and it's for the purpose of providing a general overview of the harassment. Making this public is not something that I wanted to do. It's not my first choice, but I find that it's necessary in light of the danger that I've experienced in the past and the threats that I continue to experience. So like I said, this is the first of many videos, and it's just going to provide a general overview. I've reached out to various agencies in order to find a resolution to the harassment, and that has not worked. I've reached out to the U.S. Department of Justice, the Senate Intelligence Committee, the FBI, and the first two agencies in particular, I've reached out to them because they provide oversight for our intelligence community. So that was the purpose of me reaching out to them. And so far, from the U.S. Department of Justice, I haven't received an adequate response. They actually told me to refer back to the FBI, which is the agency that I was complaining about. And from the Senate Intelligence Committee, I haven't heard back from them at all. The systematic harassment is being carried out by members of the FBI, local law enforcement, private entities, state of Florida officers and officials, and retired and civilian military personnel. Now, for some of you, it may be hard to believe that these agencies would come together for the purpose of harassing innocent citizens, but that is exactly the case. It's happened in the past, and coordination among these different branches is not something that's new. You may or may not be familiar with the Senate's Church Committee report. In 1975, the Senate put together a committee to study the unlawful activities and the abuses committed by members of our intelligence community. And the investigation was led by Senator Frank Church, and they uncovered some of the most unethical practices that you could imagine, or you probably couldn't imagine. But anyways, they discovered a lot of abuses that were being committed by members of our intelligence committee. So like I said, the investigation was led by Senator Frank Church, and I'll place the link below so that you can read up on it for yourself. You don't have to take my word for it. But one of the agencies that they studied was the FBI and its counterintelligence program, COINTELPRO. This particular program, after investigating, they concluded that it was solely or merely a vigilante operation aimed at preventing the exercise of rights secured by the Constitution. So it was designed to harass and neutralize African Americans, women, activists, and other targets that they deemed a threat to the status quo. So the harassment and abuse tactics included illegal intelligence gathering, food tampering, violence, physical and electronic surveillance of law-abiding citizens, attacks on education, and a host of others. And I've personally experienced majority of these tactics. So the FBI claimed that this program ended in 1971, but the church committee discovered that that was not the case. They discovered that these practices continued after that point, and like I said, I've experienced majority of them, including the recruitment of my family and friends. So members of every community that I've been associated with have been contacted and recruited to assist in the investigation. They call it that, but it's really just harassment. And you know, they basically contact these members and slander me. So, speaking to those members who have been contacted, whether you're part of church, school, or work, your participation is solely for the purpose of harassment. I'm sure that if you had the full knowledge of what you were participating in, you would not have agreed to participate. And like I said, you can refer back to the link that I showed you earlier, and I'll also place it below, but you can refer back to that to see the similarities between what you are participating in and the abuses that were committed back then and still happen today. So the only time that there is a break in the harassment is when other agencies are involved, or when they're trying to manipulate those who are observing, and they use various tactics to gain the participation of the target's family and friends. So for instance, they may say that the target is mentally ill, that the target has some sort of personality disorder that requires them to be under investigation, none of which is true. They're just obviously trying to gain, again, the participation of the target's family and friends, or they may even paint the target as the victim, and then, come back and say that the harassment is really being organized by another community, just blaming the harassment on another entity, which they are good at. They will convince you that the person is being harassed by some other community, when in reality they are the ones who are orchestrating the harassment. So those organizing the harassment have made various attempts to cut off my ability to earn a living, and they accomplish this through unemployment and underemployment. And that's one of the reasons, aside from the danger that and the threats that I've experienced, that's one of the reasons why I'm deciding to make this video now. So just to give you a little bit of background, I started law school at Stetson in the fall of 2016, and I'm on a leave of absence at this time due to their participation in the harassment. But prior to me starting law school, I started driving for Uber in May of 2016. This was not by choice, it was not a preference, but it was a way for me to earn income that could not be or would not be affected by those organizing the harassment, or so I thought at the time. And so for those of you who don't know what Uber is basically a self-employment platform. It's like a ride-sharing company that allows you to use your vehicle to earn income. So it's like a taxi, sort of like. So, but I stopped doing that a couple of months after I started driving because of the harassment that I was experiencing. So one of the riders assaulted me. He grabbed my phone while I was driving and he threw it on the ground. So I stopped after that, but it worked out for me financially because I started law school in the fall of that year. So I was placed on the leave of absence at Stetson in October of last year, and I recently started back driving for Uber in January of this year, again, not by choice, but due to the inability to find adequate employment. So I purchased the dash camera due to, again, the experience that I had with the previous riders, and also due to the threats that I was receiving to injure me and to prevent me from earning income. Less than 2 weeks after I started back driving for Uber, they suspended my account for low ratings. For those of you unfamiliar with Uber's rating system, they basically allow the drivers to rate the riders, and they allow the riders to rate the drivers. So, for instance, the driver can rate the rider and vice versa on a scale from anywhere of 1 to 5 stars. So at the time that they suspended my account, my rating was a 4.58 out of 5 stars, which by anyone's standard is pretty good because it's close to perfect. But according to Uber, that's a low rating that can get your account suspended. So they required me to pay $49 and take a driver improvement course, which I did. I paid the $49, and I emailed them after reading their policy, because their policy states that they send you out multiple notifications letting you know that your account will be suspended for low ratings. So after I emailed them asking them why their policy wasn't followed, they emailed me back stating that my account was suspended in error, and they reactivated it. But again, I was still required to pay that $49 fee and take that driver improvement course. So a little over a month later, I was involved in an accident, or a crash. I wouldn't call it an accident. I was involved in a crash that totaled my car. This was purposeful, and it was done in an attempt to injure me and prevent me from earning income. Since that time, the engine on multiple vehicles have been tampered with, including rentals. So after I was in the accident, I was working with the other insurance company because that driver was obviously found at fault, and I'm going to make a video on that, a separate video detailing or going into much more detail as far as what happened with that crash. But the other driver was found at fault, and so I was working with their insurance company in order to provide me with rentals, and even the rentals that I received had problems with the engine, which is generally unheard of, to have multiple or successive issues with rental cars. So like I said, I'll make a separate video on that. Due to the impact that the unemployment had on my finances, I was just able to secure a vehicle in September of this year, and I started back driving for Uber in November, so last month. A little over a week into driving for them, they again suspended my account for low ratings. When I called in, the representative told me that I would have to take the same driver improvement course that I took back in February. And when I told them, or told the representative, that I already took that course, they reactivated my account. But keep in mind, again, their policy of sending out multiple notifications was not followed. In addition to that, my rating was improved. This time it was a 4.65 out of 5 stars, which again is close to perfect. So a week later, they permanently deactivated my account. And again, when I called, the representative stated that my account was ineligible for reactivation. This time when they deactivated it, it was 4.66, so the rating was improving and nearing, 4.7, which again, by anyone's standard, is great out of 5 stars. But they still suspended my account, and the representative told me that the only thing that I could do was their delivery service, so the Uber Eats. It's the delivery portion of Uber. This again is a part of the ongoing harassment to prevent me from earning income. And like I said, I'm going to go into much more detail in later videos. So even though Uber is supposed to be a self-employment platform, they still found a way to deactivate my account for a near perfect rating. So this video again is meant to provide an overview of the harassment. Like I said earlier, I'm going to make a separate video on why I'm on a leave of absence from law school, the car crash, and also some of the other abuse and harassment tactics that they use. And again, speaking to those who have been manipulated into participation, I can't stress enough that your participation is for the sole purpose of harassment, regardless of what you have been told. I am a law-abiding citizen. I am a law-abiding citizen. I'm not boasting, but I'm just making it clear that there would be no reason why I would be under any type of investigation. So the fact that members of every community have been contacted and asked to participate in this investigation is just uh, proof of the harassment that I've experienced and that other people have experienced. So I'm hoping that this video would shed light on the situation and maybe help someone else who's also experiencing the same type of harassment but don't know who actually is orchestrating it or organizing it, because like I said, they are very good at making it appear that the harassment is coming from another community or organization or private entity, when in reality they have recruited these individuals to participate in the harassment. There are some who know what they are participating in. I personally believe that majority of the people who have been recruited don't really know what they are participating in, or they would not participate. But like I said, there are some who don't know, and there are some who know but continue to participate because of the incentives and the benefits that they receive from participating. These are the same tactics that they used with COINTELPRO, telling the participants that the target needed to be watched because they're mentally ill, a terrorist, or participating in some other kind of illegal activity. So whether you've been contacted by the FBI, local law enforcement, or just a member of your community, the purpose is the same: harassment and neutralization of the person being targeted. So hopefully by making this public, the agencies tasked with oversight of the intelligence community will do what they are tasked or supposed to do, and provide oversight in order to prevent these abuses from happening in my case and in the future. So I hope this will help someone else who may be in the same situation, who may be who are being harassed and don't really know who's orchestrating the harassment. Because like I said, they're very good at making it appear that it is some other person or organization. So hopefully this will help to change some things. So I'm going to place my email below. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me. If you have more questions about COINTELPRO in particular, like I said, I'm going to place the link below, and you can just sort of compare the similarities between what you're participating in and what's happening now. Speaking to particularly to those members who have been contacted, to those who have not been contacted and you are a member of any of the communities that I've been a part of, church, work, or school, you can still read up on this program, because like I said, the abuses are still happening today. They may not call it COINTELPRO, but they may call it the watch list, or some other program, but the basic purpose is the same: harassment and neutralization of anyone that's deemed a threat to the status quo, or anyone who could who would have influence in our various communities. So like I said, I'm going to place my email below. If you have any questions, you can follow up with me. So until the next video, take care.